Next, let's save our ActionScript 2 file so we can use it later. And let's open up our old ActionScript 3 file. I'll just go over to File, Open. And if we navigate over to our Flash website folder, we can open up our original Flash site file. And if you remember, that was ActionScript 3. Now, let me zoom out a little bit. And we've got a couple of things to set up. We're going to basically do the same thing with ActionScript 3. We're just not going to be able to use behaviors for it. So to get things ready, I'm going to set up those labels that we made before. We don't have them in our ActionScript 3 file. So I'm just going to go to my content right where my home page comes in. I'll add a keyframe, and we'll give that a label of home. We'll go to our portfolio section. I think that was frame 100 down here. I'll add a keyframe, and we'll label that one portfolio. We'll do exhibitions. Again, another keyframe, F6, and we'll use the name field to label that exhibitions. And finally, our contact section. Again, one more F6 for a keyframe and a label of contact. Now, the big difference between ActionScript 2 and 3 is that we cannot add ActionScript directly to an object on the stage. It has to be on a keyframe. That's actually why we can't use behaviors. So I'm going to need to label a few more things, namely the buttons. Let's go to Home button, and you'll notice we have a place in our property window to add what's called an instance name to that button. That's how ActionScript is going to identify this button. Now, this name is very specific. You can't have spaces or any funny characters in it. So I'm just going to call this B for button, and then the word home. I capitalized the H, and it's going to be important because we're going to have to type this exact name whenever we use it. Now, let's label our other buttons while we're here. I'm going to call the next one B Portfolio. We'll continue that with exhibitions. I'll just click on exhibitions, and it gets an instance name of B Exhibitions. And finally, we'll click on our contact button, and we'll name it B Contact. And I've got all my buttons labeled. Now, as I mentioned before, ActionScript 3 is not going to be attached to any items on our stage. We're going to be only attaching it to a keyframe. So the first thing we're going to have to do is find a keyframe that we can use to attach our ActionScript to. The most important thing when attaching the ActionScript, let me pull my timeline back, is that our buttons be on the stage before we write ActionScript that tries to set them up. Now, we can see here on our timeline that our buttons kind of fly in right before home section sets up. And I'm going to pick the frame right before home to add my ActionScript to, because my buttons are all sitting there and they're ready to go. If I click on my home button at this point, you can see that that's where we have the B Home label set up. So we're in the right spot. I'm going to add a keyframe there, F6. And now we can open up our Actions panel. Now you'll notice I'm right at AS main frame 61, so I'm in the right spot, and we can start writing our script. Now, since I'm basically going to give you a recipe, I'm going to type out the script that we need, and you're going to have to type it exactly. This includes capitalization of characters, spaces, and any kinds of punctuation. So, if it doesn't work for you, just go back and look for any kinds of typing mistakes. I'm also going to stretch this panel out a little bit just so we can see what's going on. Now, for each button, I'm going to need what's called an add event listener method. So I'll start there. I'm going to set up the portfolio button first just so we can test it. That one's called B Portfolio. We'll need a dot, and then we'll call add event listener. That's add, event is capitalized, and listener is capitalized. Now notice that's all one word, and it turns blue at the end. That's how we know we've typed the right thing. We're going to need to open parentheses, and then we're going to need a mouse event. That's going to be mouse event with a capital M and a capital E. And we're looking for a click. what we're doing is specifying what my user is going to have to do to our button. So I'm going to type a dot and then click in all caps. You can see it shows up in the menu down here below. Then I need a comma, and we're going to call a function. I'm going to call our function GoPortfolio. That's G-O, lowercase, and portfolio starting with an uppercase P. I'll close my parentheses and put in a semicolon, and we'll go down to the next line. Now, just so we can see that, I'm going to collapse this reference section. That gives us a little bit more space to look. And we'll type our function. It'll start off with the function keyword. And we named it GoPortfolio in the last line, so I'm going to use the same name. Our function is going to have a special variable in it. So I'm going to need a parentheses, and I'm going to use a variable called EVT. We'll need a colon, and we'll type that as an event object. Then I need some grouping braces. That's your curly brace character. And go down a couple lines, and we'll do another curly brace. Now, that looks like a lot, and we explain it much more in our ActionScript Essentials series. But for right now, this is what we need in order to make a button work. Now, what our button's going to do goes inside this function. And for that, I'm going to type the word this. That refers to our main timeline, a dot, and now we finally see something familiar. Go to and play. Go to is lowercase, the A is capitalized, and the play, P is capitalized. You can see it turns blue. Now, since this is the portfolio button, we want to go to and play at the portfolio label. So I'm going to need a parentheses, and then in quotes, I'm going to type the name of the label we're moving to, portfolio. That's it. Now, since that was a lot of typing, we better go test it out and make sure it's working. So I'm going to just test my movie. We see our start animations come up, and let's click on our portfolio button. And you can see it works just like ActionScript 2, taking us to that portfolio section. Now, let's close this up. And I'm going to go back into my Actions panel again. To set up the rest of the buttons, I'm actually going to copy and paste this and just modify it for the other buttons. I'll copy everything in here with a Control or Command C. I'll just go down a line or two and paste it in. And let's set up our Home button. I'll change the name of the button to Be Home. Remember, I capitalized H. Let's create a function called Go Home. And if I change the name of the function, I'll create a function called Go Home that matches it. And when we use the Go To and Play, we're going to go to the Home label. So I'll change that as well. Now let's do our other two functions. I'll go down another line or two. I'll paste in again. And we'll set up the Exhibitions one. For that one, my button was called Exhibitions with a capital E. We'll change our function to match Go Exhibitions. And we'll type our function down here to match the one that we called. And finally, we'll change the label to Exhibitions. Now, if you remember on our last exercise, we used a go to and stop there, and we'll do exactly the same here. I'll modify go to and play to go to and stop. Now, since our contact section is going to work the same way, I'm going to select this one, copy it, and we'll use that to paste. We'll just change this all to our contact labels. This is going to be Be Contact, Go Contact, again, Go Contact for our function, and a go to and stop at our contact label. Now, once again, a lot of typing, so let's test our movie out. We'll just try out all of our buttons. I'll go from the back order. I'll go to Contact first. That looks like it's working. Exhibitions, our portfolio, and finally back to Home. And we'll close our movie. Now you can see that's a lot more typing with ActionScript 3, but it's really not that hard. You can play around with the functions, and like I said, you can take a look at some of our references on our TotalTraining.com website. Now, just so we're ready for the next chapter, let's save our Flash site right here, and we can move on.